You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back.
Yeah, this is a kind of a cool episode we have. A new poker room opened up in Houston called Champions, and we went to the opening. And the cool thing about this poker room is, I don't know if Phil Helmuth is part owner or if he's just kind of the front guy or what. I hear he's part owner of it. But he had a really cool meetup game that to open it up, and me and Tyler went. It was just a ton of people there.
I mean, it seemed like the list of players was endless, right? And I guess, are they all Phil Helmuth's friends, maybe? I don't know. But it just seemed like, I mean, almost a who's who, right?
Oh, it was kind of crazy. Like, I knew, like, Johnny Vibes would be there. I knew a couple, but I did not realize how many kind of big names in poker here. And we and Tyler got on a table with a ton of them. And it was a kind of a really cool experience. I mean, for all the shit Phil Helmuth gets, he must have a somewhat decent reputation to play, like, in the poker world for all these people. Because we were talking about it, and when Johnny Chan opened up his room, there was nothing even close to this. Whereas Phil Helmuth opened this up, and it was Johnny Vibes was there, Dan Jungleman, Shaun Deeb, Alan Keating. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Jeff Platt. So,
yeah, and right whenever I sat down, I ended up sitting right next to Jungleman in the first table.
Yeah, it was the first table I was at. I get sit down. He's like, "This is a wild 1-3 game," and I sit down with my $400 stack. Not a super short buy-in for 1-3. I'm probably, the guy to my right has about how much I do, and the guy to his right has about how much we do. And then everybody else on the table had probably like $4,000 plus in front of them. Phil Helmuth was on the table. Alan Keating was on the table. Shaun Deeb was on the table. And some more names popped up as later on. But those were the first three I saw. And, it was a crazy table.
It really seemed like you were kind of like on the main table. Because I was playing with Jungleman, but it was definitely the end of his time at that table. And the only interesting hand I had, he was loving the bomb pots, the double board bomb pots. I'll kind of just give you the very brief rundown of the situation because it wasn't horribly interesting. But I had a queen high flush, but it was one of the ones where like the ace was out there on that same suit, and then the river was the king. So I had the nut flush on one board, and I had the highest flush you could have on the other, but it was a paired board.
Okay.
And in this situation, it had been kind of small betting.
So the queen A, was it? You had the same flush on both boards, right?
Correct.
Okay,
but one of the boards was paired, so it wasn't nut.
Okay, I gotcha. I just want to make sure it wasn't the other suits that you had. Okay, I gotcha.
And here's a thought here. So whenever I've made it like, $30 and got 2 callers, and then made it like 50 and got 2 callers, how much are you betting this river? You're never just potting it with the nuts, right? Because here's my thought, is I always kind of go back and forth with these. Because, like, if you have the nuts and good showdown value on the other board, right? Because I still have the best flush you could have on the other board. Aside from a boat, I'm winning. I only bet 100. Because I think I bet 15 and then 30 and then bet 100 instead of potting it.
Okay.
What do you think of that strategy when you have good showdown value on both boards? Trying to get called, not potting it to get folds to win both.
I think I like this better. Okay, because one, you can get called lighter, and you could get called one or two ways and scoop. If somebody just got like a really high flush on yours, maybe the second nut flush. But I've noticed, like, my strategy used to be just like hit it really hard and hope to take the pot down, so I don't have to chop the pot. Problem is it works when that happens. But when you just get called by one person, you're just kind of chopping this pot and you're not getting that much money out of it. Whereas if you bet like 100 and you get both calls and you have the absolute nuts on one board, well, I mean, now you know you're at least getting $50 of that one person stack.
And the disaster whenever you had the nuts on one board was sometimes you get called by one guy and then get quartered. That was the disaster with that play.
Well, I mean, but you can't get quartered here.
Well, whenever you have the nuts and no, I can't. Correct.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying with your strategy, whenever like you would have like the nut straight, then he would also have the nut straight and something better on the other board.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So because I remember that would happen. Like whenever I was using that strategy, and that was always just, I mean, would just kill the night.
Yeah. I mean, when you can have like the nut straight, and then like there's another on the other board, there's a flush. Then I mean, yeah, a lot of times you'll just end up quartered. I kind of like this strategy. I think both have merits. I'm not sure one is that much better than the other on this one, but I definitely like the strategy of like betting smaller, trying to get called. You're basically trying to get called by both players rather than just take it down or by one.
So I bet 100, and Jungleman goes, I just don't care about this money. And I was like, oh, why didn't I bet more? So he goes, I just don't care. I'm not folding, and just throws $100, and he has a 7-high flush.
Oh, wow.
And that's just it. And then I won that pot, and that was my big pot of the night. I was up pretty good with that. And then I tried seeing if I could ever bluff this one guy. Apparently I tried for about $400 worth and could never get him to fold once. He just called all sorts of random stuff. I ended up profiting just like, I think it was like $100-something that night.
I mean, it was a gigantic night for me on that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. For me, it was kind of a slow, because you were like in the main table. My big highlight, I played that one-hand Jungleman. Then Jeff Platt came over, and he was super cool to play with. I didn't really get involved in that many hands with him, though. And he kind of, I don't want to say left early, but I'm sure he was there for a long time, but from when I was there, right? Because they had stuff. They had to be, everyone was talking about what they had to do early in that morning, like the next day. Mm-hmm. And so he said he had to go. He's already been out late or whatever. It was already like past midnight. So my table ended up just being just a regular 1-3 game, while your table over there looked like just there was yelling and screaming and all the famous people. I'm like, dang, Clint really kind of lucked out on this one. Looks like he's right in the thick of things over there.
Oh, 100%. It's a so when I got on there, like the ones, like it was a crazy table, mostly fueled. I don't know if this guy is famous or not. His name was Marcus, but I mean, he seemed to know like a lot of the players. I don't know if he just played with them like a night before or something, but he was very deep stacked and he was just playing all kinds of crap for like gigantic amounts of money, and it was really fueling a ton of action for the game. So so the game is just going crazy, and a lot of players get intimidated. Like I know I get a lot of questions on like these wild tables, and they're like, "Well, the variance, you can't play real poker. You can print money at these games. I mean, the problem is you really can't play any pre-flop hands that you're not willing to basically get it all in with." So
it's almost like playing short stack in a tournament, right?
Yeah,
like
it kind of is.
Whenever you're going to get a mix up in this hand, you better be ready to rip it, kind of thing.
Well, if they're straddling big and they're betting light, then I mean, you basically just have to be willing to go. And you're not wrong, because I mean, basically, it's exactly what it is. Is the tournament at tournament you're short stacked. Basically, you're 400, but you're playing short stacked when the going rate is 50 to 100 to see a flop.
No, 100%. I mean, if it's 100 to see a flop and you have 400, I mean, you can rip it with all sorts of stuff. Because if you take down that 100, I mean, that's huge for your stack.
Oh, yeah. Now, this play, I'm not certain of. This was on this one. I think this might be a little light. A player straddles to 15. So there's 2 calls. And then a player raises to 50. And this was actually one of the players who was playing fairly correct. I have Queen Jack of Hearts.
Oh, boy, I'm not liking where this is going.
So I jam Queen Jack of Hearts for 350. I'm like, well, this is a pretty damn good hand for how this table's going. and all this. So, I mean, this is a 3-bet hand, but I can't go to 150. So, I mean, it's one of those that I don't know what I probably should be 3-betting smaller here rather than jamming.
Yeah, I was thinking about just mucking, but
I mean, definitely possible too. But I don't know, like at a table where it's just everybody's going crazy. I feel like Queen Jack of Hearts is a little strong to just muck.
Well, here's my thing: is it's not the crazy player who made it 50 though. That's my issue here.
Oh, 100%. You're not wrong.
So, but I mean, that's just my theory. I don't even know what happened to this hand, but my thought would be just to muck it. So.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, it's kind of a. I guess I could actually just. The move is probably just a call here, maybe.
I'm sticking with mucking it, but go ahead.
Okay.
So you rip it.
I rip it. The straddle calls and everyone else folds, and he has 7-8 off.
So it's heads up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect then.
We run it twice and we end up chopping. So
okay. I mean, not the best, obviously, but not the worst because you still win that dead money, right? So
yeah, I mean that was kind of my thinking on that. I mean, like on this high variance game, I'm gonna run everything twice, and there's gonna be like the raises are so big, the straddles are so big. I mean, there's a 15 and then 2 calls, so 15, 30, 45. There's $100 of dead money.
I wonder what that guy who opened a 50 had.
He told me. I think he had a better hand than me.
I believe it, but I mean 100%. I believe that.
I forget. He might have had just a pocket pair like 9s or 8s or something. But he was actually a decent player.
Well, I'm just wondering why he didn't call you.
Well, I mean, because
straddle called.
I mean, when a jam 350, it's pretty strong.
True, but I was just thinking. Well, I guess I was thinking he had a little bit better than like pocket 8s. I was thinking he probably had like ace king, ace queen, something like that. But
well, I mean, it's just one raise. I mean, it definitely has. I mean, for a raised pot, definitely. I mean, he was strong enough not to be that tight.
How deep is he? That's also.
He was just goddamn had all the money. I mean,
that's the answer then.
Actually, we were at this table where everybody had like 2,000 to 3,000. He was the deep stack.
Well, then that's the answer, because if you get called by the straddle, he doesn't want to play a gigantic pot with, some marginal holding or something that might not be like that he would normally call you with, but once the straddle calls and they're both super deep, makes sense that he'd fold.
That's
because
very true.
That's what I was saying. How is he folding to that? But if he's super deep and the straddle super deep, it makes a ton of sense.
So yeah, it was kind of these hands kind of over and over again. Like I mean, obviously you're kind of card dead when you're this hamstrung because you're only playing like pretty good holdings. I end up with queen 9 of diamonds. I raised to 25 over. I guess there was no straddles here because I mean it would have been way more. The same player who went all in with 7-8 offsuit raises to 200. I tell him never folding to you. I jam it all in there. He calls, we run it twice, and end up chopping. He had king 10 off.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, he was ahead. But, I mean, I think my queen 9 is ahead of his range at that point. I mean, obviously, you have 7-8. If he's doing the 7-8 off, it's definitely ahead of his range.
Right. Well, you haven't painted much of a picture for us on this player, so it's kind of hard for us to tell, right? I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what... I mean, other than that, he went all in with 7-8 offsuit. I mean, is he going all in every other hand? How much money does he have?
The vast majority is he's super deep and betting and 3-betting. I mean, at least 80%.
Right. Yeah. So that also plays a role in it.
Yeah. So this is where things kind of take a big turn here. Is same exact thing. There's a bunch of straddles to 15. I have ace 9 of spades. I make it 75 over them.
Okay, now this is where we're starting to get on the same page. I'm liking this.
The wild player makes it 500.
Okay. This isn't the worst.
I mean, when it comes around, I mean, I know he'd do this with like king, queen, king, jack. I know he'd do it with his probably lesser aces. I'm like, I'm just not folding here. I jam it, and I have probably 200 more than he does. He's I think it was like $150 more raise or something off that. He calls, and he has deuce 7 offsuit. And I'm good on it. We run it twice. I'm good on both boards. And that's kind of where it takes off from there. Is like, because at that point, that was like I probably won $700 on that hand, giving me like a $1,400 stack.
Yeah, that's huge. That play I did like. I like that play a lot there. And now that you've kind of given us a better understanding of this player, because I don't even know, other than knowing that the game is crazy, I don't know how often he's ripping it and how often he's raising. Makes that Queen 9 hand make a little more sense as well.
Yeah, it's one of those that definitely can fold there, but at the same token...
Well, player dynamic is big, right? So, this guy is 3-betting 80-90% of his hands.
Yeah.
And he's just gambling with any 2 cards. Queen 9 all of a sudden is pretty much a premium.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, but,
Yeah.
It just helps if we knew, all that this guy, how wild this guy is. It's crazy, because I wonder what that guy does for a living. Like, did he just,
not know.
like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't it always weird whenever, like, you see people, like, all these, like, super deep games and just kind of makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, because, some of them you're like, okay, they're professional poker players. But the others, obviously, that aren't, have shitloads of money. You're definitely wondering.
Well, it's like we always say, like, how it's like, just because someone wants to gamble or is not playing good poker does not mean they're not successful in life. And, most of the time they are.
Probably way more successful than all the better players at that table.
Yeah, for sure. It's just so interesting watching at the poker table.
Like, better and, more successful, smarter. They just don't give a shit.
It's like, he was even better looking than me.
Damn it! It's a this is kind of this game is just off the rails. Like I was playing, like Phil Helmuth was only on the table for 30 minutes. Alan Keating was probably only there for 45 minutes. And then they got replaced. Like Dan Jungleman came over there and was playing. So it was a very cool environment. The drunk guy who was adding fuel was also kind of dominating the conversation, so I didn't really talk to anybody, but it was still cool being around everybody at that.
It seemed like he was dominating the room. He was dominating the conversation on our table, too.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Let me see. I've got one hand. The button raises to 15. I'm in the big blind with ace 4. I believe this is offsuit, but against a button raise, I'll definitely call here. I think my range is better than that.
Well, so it folds to the button, he raises, and you're in the big blind?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. I like this.
Flop is ace 8-6 with 2 diamonds. He bets 25.
It's just a call.
I call. The turn is an 8, so it's now the flop is ace 8-6. Turn is an 8. He bets 45.
I'm still holding on here pretty hard, I think, right?
He's that same player who I said was pretty good. I think against good players, you have to be willing to. They're going to barrel more turns, and I think you have to call a little bit more often than like a regular 1-3. I call 45.
Well, another thing is if he's betting kind of that wide, if he's raising the button with the hands he should be, you're still going to be ahead here a lot.
I 100% agree. The river's a queen, which is actually a great card for me.
Right, because now your kicker doesn't play for everyone. So if he has a better ace other than ace-king, you're chopping.
Yeah, he bets 125. At this point, once I get here and then get this exact card, I'm never folding for this amount. So I call, basically snap it.
Yeah, all this seems perfectly standard, I would even say.
And he snap bucks. So it was definitely
You hate to have you play perfectly standard and be bluffing. You know what I mean? Like, as that player, like, that's always a bummer. Like, every decision you made was, like, pretty basic and standard, right, I would say.
I think so, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of you hate that whenever that's, like, your decisions are all basic and easy, and his was trying to get you to fold. It's like, dang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 1,000.
That's like whenever you were like bluffing into the nuts almost. You're just like, God. like, they didn't even think about it.
So, yeah, it was, definitely didn't. Yeah. That guy at least wanted to sweat there.
Here's something interesting for you. Here's something that Jonathan Little used to say back in the day.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is that hand to do this with, but just some thought. He used to say, even if you're going to hero call somebody and you think that they're bluffing, that you should still pretend to think about it to incentivize them to try again. Like, if you just make a snap call super easy, they're not going to try to bluff you again, even if, like, it is a standard call like that one was. But if you would have, like, sat there and thought about it and act like you had a decision, that would incentivize him to try to bluff you again. But if you're just snap calling, he's like, ooh, no, this guy, no.
I will say, I think that is a really good idea. And that is along with some other things I would like to do is, and like, maybe like certain timing tells I have, because I really don't pay a lot of attention to it at the table. But as moving into higher stakes, I do think it will come into play. Because, like, if you have a draw, a lot of times you call quicker because you either know you have the odds or you don't. Whereas, like, if it's a pair or something, you're sitting there figuring out if you think you're good or not. I think, in general, I might need to actually work on my game in that aspect along with other things with that as well.
And Ryan, obviously getting the, like, I don't want to say fish, but someone who's bluffing a lot to continue bluffing, I think that's good at the 1-3 game if you're in that action table. But the timing tells a draw versus a pair, I think, is more important as you move up in stakes rather than the 1-3, 1-2 game.
I think so. Yeah, I would agree with all of that.
Yeah, because I'm definitely not trying to incentivize 1-2 players to take more time.
Yeah, very true. I got one more hand from this session. I raise ace-jack off to 15. A player 3-bets to 50. I call. And this is one of those that's kind of dependent. I think this should be a fold against most. Actually, it should have been a fold against this player, 100%.
I say, man, your hand in this session is so hard to break down because, like, every player you play against, one is either ripping it in with 7-deuce offsuit for like $800, or everyone else is playing super good and super correct.
Yeah, that seems about right.
I mean, because these are super hard to break down. Because I was like, ace-jack, I was like, rip it all in? And then you're like, this should be a fold versus this player. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's so... Because, like, that queen-9 hand made no sense. Then you give us context afterward, like, oh, now it makes perfect sense. And now this one, I'm like, well, we're just going all in. Now it's a fold. I'm just... This one is all over the place, it seems like.
It really is. I mean, and it's kind of, you're just navigating landmines on this table. Because, like, there's probably 2 or 3 players that are really good and playing correct, and the others are just don't give a shit about money when they're playing 1-3. So everything you're saying is perfectly right. This guy was pretty good who 3-bet me. This probably should be a fold. But I think once you get in that mentality of, like, at this table that most, like, this hand's are very good for this table, it's easy to kind of, like, adopt that to players you shouldn't.
That was exactly what I was about to say. Is sometimes it can be really hard to kind of rein it in, and, like that, thinking like, well, this is ace-jack, I'm just going with it, kind of thing, versus a guy who's playing, I mean, if you're playing correct, you're not playing that many hands, so, and his 3-betting range is correct. Ace-jack isn't looking that great, but...
Yeah, no, 100%. But he 3-bets, and I do call. The flop is jack 10-4.
How much was the 3-bet again? Just because I lost track.
50.
And you made it 15?
Yes.
Okay.
So jack 10-4. I check and flow. I was in earlier position. He was the button. He checks. The turn is an ace. I now have 2 pair.
Oh, man, this is about to be kind of a nasty one, I think.
So ace. So, I mean, the flop is jack 10-4. Turn is an ace. I bet 66, and he calls.
Did you ever think about check raising this one? Because the ace smashes...
Definitely not.
Let me give you my theory at least on it. All his better aces still have a gutter and they'll probably call. It was just my thought. And you're probably dominating him right now. And I don't think he's folding. I mean, it's risky, but you just never came across your mind.
I mean, he's got king-queen for a straight.
That part's the bummer.
Yeah, he's got pocket ace. Well, I mean, like, granted, I'm blocking aces, but I mean, he's got pocket aces that might sometimes check on this flop. Probably not, but I mean, he's got jacks, tens. I don't know. I think that I mean, I think 2 pair is a little. I mean, once I check raise, and I think it's going to be tough to get called here by a lot worse.
I don't know. I think ace king, ace queen would probably tag along here, but go ahead.
I mean, I think this guy folds ace king, ace queen if I check raise here. I mean, it's just like you have a gutter, but you have 4 outs. I mean, I don't think I'm deep enough here to justify.
I'm counting on him to play bad, so.
Yeah. He does make the call. River and ace. So now I have aces full of jacks. I bet 140. And what do you think about that bet? So, I mean, so it's 100, we say 65, 130. So it's about, I bet 140 into about 230.
Yeah, and I'm again on the same theory of why I wanted to check raise on the turns. I'm betting a lot bigger here. I'm probably like over betting if I was guessing, because I still think he has like ace king, ace queen, better holding. And I think we're gonna get called by a big bet here. I think he'll call off a big bet. I'm gonna bet pretty big here.
I bet 140. He kind of tank calls with ace king.
Yeah. So again, that is, man, I was right on the money with this, huh?
Yeah, you definitely nailed this hand right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm check raising the turn and I'm blasting off on that river. But that's just my thought.
I still think the check raise is kind of light. I mean, I don't know why this guy would call with just ace king here on a check raise turn when there's a ton of 2 pairs and sets and everything.
I don't know. I see people get stacked all the time with ace king on an ace high board for so much money. Seems like people like to call.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I do like your thought on that. That probably doesn't check through that often because what is he 3-betting that doesn't have some equity here?
100% my point.
Yeah. You're kind of selling me on that. I don't know. That check raise with king queen suited being a 3-bet hand a lot.
I mean, we're worried about one specific combination of cards, right? But I think more he's going to have ace king, ace queen, stuff like that. Ace 10, so
Yeah, there's a lot more. There are a lot more there. I don't know if I get action or not from them, but there are a lot more there. So, interesting hand.
Yeah, definitely interesting hand. But I definitely like the overbet on the river there, either way on the run out. But
yeah, I probably should be going for more. It almost looked like he was going to fold. Like I say, this player was better than your average player. But so I mean, he definitely thought of folding for a minute.
You might have gotten the dead maximum. So
yeah, I mean, it did not look. I mean, it was definitely not a snap call. And he was not re-raising, so like I say, he was
definitely
pretty
doesn't
good.
sound like he was calling an overbet, but
yeah, it's I end up cashing out I end up making about $1,700 off the Champions deal, like being at just a crazy wild table. There were a couple big bomb pot hands. I'm not going to go over them on this because we've covered enough hands for this session, and they're just so bad on a podcast. But just a gigantic winning session at a crazy table full of celebrities, so that was really cool. The room itself, super cool too. I mean,
I think I saw online they have hotel rooms upstairs too if you want to stay there.
Yeah, that was something probably, I mean, because we have people who listen to this podcast that are not in Texas or might be in Austin, San Antonio. I know we get a lot of listeners in Florida, I think, somehow.
Yeah.
But there are actually hotel rooms. It's actually built into this room is built into a hotel, so there's hotel rooms right there where you can stay and be able to play. And let's say, I mean, super nice room. They have a live stream table. The TVs are kind of in are very big and kind of a motion where they're very easy to see and all that, which I always like because I like to watch the games a little bit. Just I would say one of the nicer rooms that in Texas. I mean, we just kind of keep upping the scale over and over again, and this is another one of them.
Here's something I liked it's definitely a timed game. So if that's playing a factor in your decision on where you play, there's definitely one that is a timed game. So that's nice to see.
I like that more and more. I mean, like you said, me and you are on the same page. I'd like to see everything be a timed game. For a long time, I would not play in anything that wasn't. And I still would try to do the majority of them. I mean, and I like seeing that these new rooms that are really, really big, really, really good are going to that. Because Houston's kind of gotten away from it a little bit. I think it's very bad for poker in Houston.
No, I agree. But, yeah, definitely like to see that. Definitely, like, everyone who went there was saying that they liked kind of the vibe, the feel of the room was super nice. Just the whole atmosphere, I'm kind of repeating myself with that, but just the whole thing was just a very nice poker room.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they do well. I won't lie, I am a little nervous because poker is so competitive in Houston. There's so damn many places to play, and the player pool is only so big. But I'll tell you what, if one had my rooting interest, it'd definitely be this one. So we'll kind of see, because like it's hard to compete for the players out there.
Absolutely. I guess we have another session from last night, right?
Yeah.
Or did you have another session to cover too? Because I only played that one and the last one that were noteworthy. Did you play another one between there that we need to talk about, or are we good to go on to the one from yesterday?
I have one other one I'll cover, and I'm just going to cover one hand from this session.
Oh, yeah, I do remember this one, yeah.
It was one of the more interesting hands I've played. Let me go to my notes real quick. So these were on the text message, and this one will be on the
Yeah, because I was on this one. I think I covered this session for me, but you had so many hands that you haven't actually covered this one. So this will be, because I remember this was a super interesting spot. So
one of the more interesting that I have. So I'm only going to, like I say, just one hand from this session. I have ace queen suited in middle position. The straddle is to 6. I make it 25. There's two calls. A player says, I'm checking my pocket pair in the dark. The flop is 10-7 deuce with 2 diamonds. I kind of down bet, as I tend to do in these spots, which I found that I think I need to increase this bet size a little bit when it's multi-way. But I bet 25. That player who says, I'm checking my pocket pair in the dark, raises to 135. And
this is a draw-heavy board.
Yeah.
It's flush draws out there, and it's 8-10.
10-7 deuce with 2 diamonds. I have ace queen of diamonds. He 135 says he flopped a set and shows me a deuce. I mean, this is one of those that I kind of almost give him credit for. I mean, like, I raised it to 25. He says he has a pocket pair beforehand. I don't know what's calling me that has a deuce in it that's not a pocket pair. But you said,
so this is 3 ways?
It's 3 ways.
And how much did you bet on the flop?
I bet 25.
And the other guy called?
The other guy folds.
Okay. And he raises to 135?
Yeah.
It's a gigantic raise. And how deep are we here?
So I must have been probably about 350 behind. Wait, no, sorry, I would have been more. I must have been about 500 or so.
Is this a fold?
I mean, I was just super lost on what to do here. I mean, when somebody...
I mean, even 500 behind, I think this is... I mean, you could be turned dead, which is always a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those I did not really know whatsoever. I mean, I have a draw to the nuts here. I'm trying to put him on something, but... And it does seem like something that would raise to 135 might be a set of deuces, just scared of the draws, right?
100%. This seems like a set to me. I mean, this big bet size seems just like a set.
I mean, I haven't been this lost in a while. I think of jamming. I think of folding.
I mean, I don't like jamming. I think I like folding, actually.
I decide that, I mean, if I have ace queen of diamonds and I flop this strong, I need to have some type of calling range, and that this is just too strong to fold here. So I settle on a call and reevaluate the turn.
That's definitely, I like that way more than I like jamming. I hate jamming.
Okay. So I end up deciding on a call. What is it? The turn is a king. So I was in middle position. He was in the blind. So he checks to me on this turn king.
He's never checking a set here.
Yeah, I check behind because I'm like, well, I've got ace high and a dream, and I don't know that on here.
Yeah, but the set of deuces is over now to me.
Yeah, the river's a diamond, giving me the nuts.
I'm definitely betting here. If you're
I don't
out
get
of
a
position,
chance.
Oh, he just ships it and you call.
He bets 200.
All in.
And then, yeah, obviously, I jam, and then he folds. But it was one of the strangest hands I've played in a while. Because, I mean, how in the world... Like, I mean, you do all that to convince me you have a set of deuces, and then when I call, you jam the diamond flush. It's just super... One of the weirdest hands I've played in a minute.
Yeah, that seemed, just super poorly played on his part. That bet should have been on the turn and probably would have worked.
Yeah, 100%. I think so.
If you're saying you have a deuce on a super draw heavy board, and then
I mean, at that point, I have a gutter to the nuts, and I have a flush draw. So I mean, it's gonna have to be a sizable bet.
Oh no,
but,
I'm thinking it is. I'm thinking that's when. Yeah, but I definitely think this is a fold here. If he bets, if he bets like 200, I think you should probably fold, right? If you only have 400 behind, and you have.
Probably so, yeah. At that point, probably should be folding.
But definitely don't wait till all the draws come in and then try betting after you say you had a made hand, and then once everything that comes in beats you.
Yeah, super weird. Because he did a good job of convincing me he had a set on the flop. I don't know. I guess you wouldn't give someone that much information if you have a set, no matter how scared you are of the draws. But people do stupid shit all the time, so I did give some plausibility to it. But I ended up making 430 off that session at Cypress Poker Lounge in a very strangely played hand. And I'm not even sure if the call on the flop is good. If he does bet that turn, I'm in a weird spot, and maybe I should just be folding there. I have no idea.
Yeah, like I said, I liked the fold originally, but happy you won. That part I like.
Yeah, I'm still not sure that the fold wasn't the better move. So it was on there. Last night, I don't think I took some.
What happened to your pocket tens hand? I thought that was a big hand. We never covered that.
I don't even remember pocket tens hand. It's a.
It was the most noteworthy hand of the month. But
I have no idea. Wait, did I?
It was versus the guy with the straddle guy who was playing pool or whatever.
Don't know. Don't remember it at all. Have no recollection of this hand.
You shipped $1,000 in with pocket tens and don't remember. But all right.
Wait, shipped $1,000 in? I wasn't even $1,000 behind. I was like,
where have you been? I was there to watch.
I broke even last night.
Not last night. I'm talking about earlier.
Like earlier when?
You're out for zero. What do you mean?
Oh, goddamn. Oh, goddamn. Okay.
I'm like, what is happening? How do you not remember? This is the biggest hand of the month, and you're not even... I'm like, where have you been? I'm like, at least this makes sense so you don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I blocked it from my memory.
Trust me, you're doing a great job of selling us on it. I don't know what is happening.
Okay, so this is... Okay, we're going to do a caveat. You can save the notes on Instagram, on everything. This is maybe the worst hand I've ever played in my life. I get it. So on this hand, I have pocket tens. I end up 3-betting. and this guy who is
not kind of. He's playing very loose, showing bluffs, overbetting ton.
Yeah. So he calls, maybe one other call, I don't remember.
It was 3 ways. He was in the straddle. You made it 20.
You seem to have just a great memory of this. So yeah, it was so on this. So it was a board of all undercards, if I remember right. It was 8 deuce. It was like 8 deuce 6. No, it was 8 deuce 3, I think. It was something where like 2 pair was never available. I remember that. So I end up betting. There's a flush draw on board. He ends up check raising me. I call.
Other guy folds.
The turn is a jack. I check to him. He bets pretty big here. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, okay, there's no 2 pairs available here. It's 8 deuce 3. It'd be weird for him to hit a random jack here. So, I mean, I was putting in the most likely hand is either a set or a flush draw. He's been bluffing. So, and, I mean, it seems like a set would want to go for more value than betting big. I make the call because I can't really... I think I'm ahead of all the flush draws. And a lot of these sets just... Well, I mean, the sets are obviously available. I thought it was more weighted towards flush draws. And I thought a jack would be very weird to hit here.
Yeah, well, you guys are super deep.
We are super damn deep. So the river is a complete blank. It was, I forget, maybe like a 7 or 6.
Yeah. I mean, it was a complete brick.
It was he instantly jams all in.
Which is like 3x pot or 3.5x pot, something ridiculous.
It was definitely well over pot. I remember that. It was, well, it wasn't like that much. It was like 1.5x pot. It was, because I remember calculating that. It puts me all in for like $500 maybe. A lot. It was a lot of goddamn money. That's all I.
It was more
than
that, but yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, okay, he wouldn't play ace jack this way. That seems like a check scenario with that much showdown. So here he either has a set or he has a missed flush draw, and I end up convincing myself that this guy was bluffs enough that this is profitable to call. Because he's going to have some missed flush draws here, the way he played this. I call, and I get stacked for it was like the entire pot was like, I think I put like 1,100 in there, 1,000 or something. A huge amount on a very shitty calls. Probably flop, turn, and river, really. And it's one of those
the flop I don't mind as much. I mean, I feel like it'd probably be pretty weak to flop an overpair on a draw-heavy board and get raised and then fold. The turn is when things get real, kind of like you say, that truth serum.
Yeah, but if you're going to call that flop when a nothing card comes on the turn, I mean, if you're calling based on that you think he might be on a draw, that turns a weird... Well, I mean, I guess he could just randomly have king jack of diamonds or something like that, yeah.
True, but I could see him spazzing out on the flop is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't mind that one as much, but yeah.
But I make the call. He flopped 2 pair with 8 deuce. And I mean, this is one of those that even players who bluff, for the most part, are not bluffing gigantic amounts on the river. It's just, I mean, this was one of those, I won't even say it's a leak in my game, more just like I spazzed out for like a minute. And I tell you what, man, this one ate into my soul. Losing that much into that pot it's one thing if somebody sucks out, that's part of the game. But knowing that you just made such a shitty play, ate into my soul on that one. So it was, I had to take a couple days off after that because I knew I'd still be on tilt.
Yeah, because the guy was telling me that he'd give you more money. You could borrow money from if you wanted to come back. I was like, it's not a money thing, it's a tilt thing. That's why he left.
Oh, did he say that? I didn't even hear that.
No, he didn't say it to you afterward. He told me that if you needed to borrow money, he had cash on him. If you wanted to Venmo him, I was like, wow, that is never good when people are trying to get you back at the table.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And from his perspective, I mean, I was the biggest of fish. So, I mean, yeah, I don't even blame him. This guy was kind of a fish and thought I was fishier than him. And here's the thing, is it was such a bad play. He is 100% justified to think that way because that's all he knows of me and on how I played that hand. And 100%, that should be his take on me. No, I had cash. I had cash for I think 2 or 3 more buy-ins, but I knew after that, I mean, it would have been just a wreck of me playing. I didn't even play like the next 2 days. I was so shell shocked.
Yeah, no, I remember. But yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, don't worry. I was like, he has money. He's just not coming back.
Yeah, that was hurtful, and I now understand why you were so shocked that I didn't remember that hand, and very happy that I didn't. Thanks for bringing these pleasant memories back up, Tyler. I'm glad to relive these situations.
Yeah, well, that's it, right?
Cool. Yeah, Tyler's like, you're a fish? I want people to know you're a fish.
Yeah, we can end it.
Oh.
No, I told him I saw your legs kick like a donkey whenever you called.
I mean, 100%. Kick like a donkey. My head was flopping around like a fish. I mean, just like everything you could say. I mean, exactly is what I was doing.
Do you have any other interesting hands, or is that it?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I was like, well.
But yeah, I had completely forgotten about that one. But so thank you. But yeah, it was overall a good week. I was very happy that I could actually make a recovery from that because that hand happened before the Champions deal. So I was very happy to kind of gain some confidence back, making some light calls that were good from a light call that was just so horrible.
Well, I guess on that note, this concludes the Texas Poker Podcast. Talk to you next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.